The discovery. Dr. Lisa Grant wiped sweat from her forehead as she descended deeper into the crystal cave. The blue light from her scanner cast strange shadows on the walls around her. She had been working on planet Zerion Prime for 3 months now, digging through ruins that were older than human civilization itself. Another dead end, she muttered, checking her readings. The cave system went down for miles, but most tunnels led to empty chambers and broken stone. Her team back at Kepler base was getting impatient. The Galactic Coalition had sent them here to find something important, not to waste time in empty holes. Lisa stopped walking. Her scanner was making a different sound now. The blue light flickered and changed to red. Something big was down here, something giving off massive energy readings. She moved forward carefully, her boots crunching on crystal fragments covering the floor. The tunnel opened into a huge chamber, and Lisa's jaw dropped as she stepped inside. The walls were covered in smooth crystal that glowed with its own light. Strange symbols were carved into every surface, spiraling up toward a ceiling she could barely see. But what made her heart race was what stood in the center of the room. A warrior in full armor stood perfectly still on a raised platform. He was huge, nearly 12 feet tall with 4 powerful arms and a body that looked like it could tear through steel. His armor was black with silver lines that pulsed with faint light. His head was covered by a helmet that looked like the skull of some ancient predator. Lisa approached slowly, her scanner going crazy with readings. The warrior was not a statue. Her equipment told her that something was alive inside that armor, something that had been sleeping for a very long time. "Base, this is Lisa," she said into her communicator. "I need you to send a full team down here right now and contact Coalition Command. Tell them we found something big." The voice of her assistant, Jake Morrison, crackled through the speaker. "What did you find, Doc?" Lisa stared at the sleeping warrior. "I think I found a Vorak." The silence on the other end told her that Jake understood what that meant. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Vorak. They were the stuff of legends, stories told to scare children and inspire warriors. 50,000 years ago, they had ruled a third of the galaxy. They were the greatest fighters anyone had ever seen, with technology that made modern weapons look like toys. Then one day, they just disappeared. No one knew why or how. Some said they had destroyed themselves in a great war. Others believed they had left the galaxy to find new worlds to conquer. A few thought they had simply grown tired of fighting and chosen to die out peacefully. But here was proof that at least one of them was still alive, sleeping in a crystal tomb that had kept him safe for thousands of years. "Doc, are you sure?" Jake's voice was shaky. "The readings could be wrong. Maybe it's just some other species that looks like them." Lisa checked her scanner again. The genetic patterns were clear. This was definitely a Vorak, and he was definitely alive. His body was in some kind of suspended animation, preserved perfectly by the crystal technology around him. "I'm sending you the data now," Lisa said. "Get everyone down here, but tell them to move carefully. We don't know what might wake him up." The ancient secret. Within an hour, the cave was full of scientists and security personnel. Dr. Jake Morrison arrived with a team of xenobiologists who immediately began setting up their equipment. Captain Roy Stevens brought a squad of Coalition Marines, all of them looking nervous as they stared at the ancient warrior. "Have you tried to communicate with it?" Captain Stevens asked. Lisa shook her head. "We don't even know if he can hear us. The stasis field might block all outside signals. But look at this." She pointed to readings on her scanner. "His brain is still active. He's dreaming in there." The xenobiologists worked for hours, taking readings and samples from the crystal around the warrior. What they found was both amazing and terrifying. The technology keeping the Vorak alive was more advanced than anything the Coalition had ever seen. It wasn't just preserving his body, but also maintaining his mind and even improving his physical abilities while he slept. "This is incredible," said Dr. Amy Carter, the team's lead biologist. His muscles are actually stronger now than when he went into stasis. The system has been enhancing him for 50,000 years. Jake looked up from his computer. I've been reading the symbols on the walls. I think this isn't just a tomb, it's some kind of testing chamber. Look at these markings here. They're instructions, but not for burial. They're for awakening. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Awakening? You mean someone is supposed to wake him up? That's what it looks like. The symbols talk about a time when the galaxy would be ready for the return of the Vorak. When species would arise that were worthy of their attention. Captain Stevens stepped forward. We need to report this to Admiral Rodriguez immediately. This is way above our security level. Lisa nodded, but she couldn't stop staring at the warrior. Even in sleep, he looked dangerous. His armor was covered in scars from ancient battles, and weapons hung from his belt that she didn't recognize. His hands, all four of them, were positioned as if he might draw those weapons at any moment. What do you think he was like when he was awake? She asked quietly. Jake consulted his translation of the wall symbols. According to this, his name is Warlord Kether of the Crimson Spear Legion. He was a champion of his people, known for never losing a battle. The inscriptions say he volunteered to sleep until the time was right for his return. The time was right for what? Jake's face went pale as he read more of the ancient text. To judge whether the new civilizations of the galaxy are worthy to survive, and if they are not, to remove them so that better ones can take their place. The chamber fell silent except for the quiet humming of the stasis field. Everyone stared at the sleeping warrior with new understanding. This wasn't just an archaeological discovery. This was a weapon that had been waiting 50,000 years to complete its mission. Lisa made a decision that would change everything. We're moving him to Research Station Omega 7. If he wakes up, I want him as far from populated worlds as possible. But as the team prepared to transport the crystal tomb, none of them noticed the faint change in the light patterns on the warrior's armor. Deep in his ancient sleep, Warlord Kether was beginning to sense the presence of the new species that had found him. And for the first time in 50,000 years, his dreams were starting to include images of the galaxy as it was now, filled with races he had never seen before. The test was about to begin. The awakening. 3 months had passed since the crystal tomb arrived at Research Station Omega 7. The massive facility floated in empty space, far from any inhabited worlds. Dr. Lisa Grant had moved her entire operation here, along with the best scientists the Coalition could provide. Dr. Jake Morrison stood in front of a wall of monitors, each one showing different readings from the sleeping warrior. The Vorak had been moved to the station's most secure laboratory, surrounded by energy shields and sensor arrays that monitored every breath he took. His brain activity is increasing, Jake said, pointing to the neural scan displays. Look at these patterns. 3 months ago, his mind was barely active. Now it's like he's having vivid dreams. Dr. Amy Carter joined him at the monitors. The stasis field is definitely weakening. The crystal technology is old, and moving it here seems to have damaged some of the control systems. I think he's going to wake up whether we want him to or not. Lisa walked into the lab carrying a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. She hadn't been sleeping well since they brought Kether to the station. Every night she dreamed about those 4 arms reaching for weapons, about that skull-like helmet turning to look at her. How long do we have? She asked. Amy checked her readings again. Maybe a week, maybe less. The stasis field is failing faster each day. Jake turned away from his monitors. I've been working on the translation of those wall symbols from the tomb. I think I know why he was put to sleep. Lisa and Amy both looked at him, waiting. The Vorak didn't disappear because they died out or left the galaxy, Jake continued. They chose to sleep. According to the inscriptions, they saw that the galaxy was filled with weak races that relied too much on technology and not enough on personal strength. They decided to wait until stronger civilizations arose. Stronger how? Amy asked. The symbols mention tests, physical combat, mental discipline, moral courage. The Vorak believed that a civilization had to prove itself worthy before it could be trusted with real power. Lisa felt her stomach tighten. And if a civilization fails the test? Jake looked uncomfortable. The inscriptions aren't clear about that, but they do mention something called the Great Cleansing. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and Captain Roy Stevens' voice came over the communication system, all personnel to emergency stations. We have a massive energy surge in Laboratory 7. The three scientists ran through the corridors toward the lab where Kether was kept. When they arrived, they found chaos. The crystal tomb was glowing brighter than ever before, and the energy readings were off the charts. Security personnel were backing away from the containment area as sparks flew from overloaded equipment. What happened? Lisa shouted over the noise. Lieutenant Dan Clark, the security chief, pointed at the scanning equipment. Dr. Morrison's team was running a deep neural scan when everything went crazy. The energy feedback fried half our systems. Inside the containment area, the crystal around the warrior was cracking. Lines of light spread across its surface like a spiderweb, and pieces began falling to the floor. The warrior himself remained motionless, but Lisa could see that his armor was now glowing with the same pulsing light they had first noticed in the cave. Everyone out of the lab, Captain Stevens ordered as he arrived with more security troops. Set up a perimeter in the corridor. But it was too late. With a sound like breaking glass, the crystal tomb shattered completely. Fragments scattered across the floor, and the energy field that had held the warrior in sleep for 50,000 years finally collapsed. For a moment, nothing happened. Kether stood exactly as he had in the tomb, perfectly still and silent. Then slowly, his head began to turn. The helmet moved with mechanical precision, scanning the room and the people in it. Lisa could feel his gaze even through the metal of his armor. It was like being studied by a predator that was deciding whether she was worth hunting. The warrior's first movement was small. He flexed the fingers of his upper right hand, and Lisa heard the quiet sound of metal joints working smoothly after their long rest. Then he took a step forward, and the entire station seemed to shake. Captain Stevens and his security team raised their weapons. "Stop right there." Stevens called out. "You are surrounded. Surrender, and we will not harm you." Kether's helmet turned toward the captain. When he spoke, his voice was deep and carried easily through the laboratory despite the thick armor he wore. "Surrender?" The word seemed to amuse him. "I am Warlord Kether of the Crimson Spear Legion. I do not surrender to anyone." His language was perfect, Lisa realized. The warrior had been learning from the station's computers during his awakening process. In just a few hours, he had absorbed their entire database. "I have slept for 50,000 of your years," Kether continued, taking another step forward. "And in my dreams, I have watched your species grow and spread across the stars. Now it is time to see if you are worthy of the gift of existence. The test begins." The security team's weapons were useless. Kether moved with impossible speed for something so large. Energy blasts that should have stopped a tank bounced harmlessly off his ancient armor. In seconds, he had disarmed every soldier in the room without seriously hurting any of them. "Your weapons are like toys," he said, crushing a plasma rifle in one of his 4 hands. "This is why my people chose to sleep. You have forgotten how to be strong." Captain Stevens helped his stunned Marines to their feet. "What do you want from us?" Kether's helmet turned toward Lisa. "You. The one who woke me. You will be my guide to understanding your species." Lisa felt every eye in the room turn to her. Her heart was pounding, but she forced herself to step forward. "I'm Dr. Lisa Grant. I'm the one who found you." "Dr. Lisa Grant," Kether repeated, as if testing the sound of her name. "You seek knowledge in dark places. This shows courage. But courage alone is not enough. The ancient warrior walked to the lab's main viewscreen and activated it with a gesture. The display showed star charts of the local sector, with dozens of human colonies marked in blue. My people ruled this galaxy when yours were still learning to make fire, Kether said. We built an empire that lasted 10,000 years. But we grew concerned about the future. We saw that weaker races would eventually outnumber the strong, and that they would inherit the stars not through merit, but through chance. Lisa found her voice. So you decided to judge us? We decided to sleep until civilizations arose that were worthy of our attention. Then we would test them. Those who passed would be allowed to continue. Those who failed. He gestured at the star chart. Would be removed. Dr. Jake Morrison pushed through the crowd of security personnel. Removed? You mean destroyed? Kether's helmet turned toward him. If necessary. The galaxy is vast, but its resources are not infinite. Better that the strong inherit the stars than the weak. Lisa stepped closer to the alien warrior. Everyone else in the room was backing away, but something about Kether's words made her angry rather than afraid. Who gave you the right to decide who lives and who dies? She demanded. You don't know anything about us. You've been asleep for 50,000 years. For a moment, the laboratory was completely silent. Even the humming of the station's life support system seemed to pause. Kether's helmet tilted slightly as he studied Lisa. You challenge me? There was something that might have been surprise in his deep voice. Even though I could destroy you with a single gesture. Yes, I challenge you, Lisa said, her voice steady despite her fear. Because that's what humans do. We question. We fight for what we believe in. We don't bow down to bullies, no matter how big they are or how old their armor is. Kether was silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he laughed. It was a sound like distant thunder. Interesting, he said. Very interesting. Perhaps there is more to your species than I first thought. The ancient warrior walked back to the center of the room. Very well, Dr. Lisa Grant. You want to prove that your people are worthy? Then you will have your chance. I will give you and your coalition 3 tests. Pass them all, and I will return to my sleep, satisfied that the galaxy is in capable hands. And if we fail? Captain Stevens asked. Kether's armor began to glow brighter. Then I will awaken my brothers and sisters who sleep in tombs scattered across the galaxy. Together, we will cleanse the stars of unworthy life and wait for something better to evolve. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. How many of you are there? 10,000, Kether replied calmly. 10,000 Vorak warriors, each one sleeping until the day of judgment arrives. You have found one tomb, Dr. Grant. There are 9,999 others. The number hit the room like a physical blow. 10,000 warriors like Kether could destroy human civilization without breaking a sweat. What are the tests? Lisa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kether moved to the laboratory's communication console and activated it. The viewscreen now showed Admiral Rodriguez at Coalition Command, along with other high-ranking officials who had been monitoring the situation. People of the Galactic Coalition, Kether's voice boomed through the speakers. I am Warlord Kether of the Crimson Spear Legion. I bring you a message from the ancient past and a challenge for your future. Admiral Rodriguez leaned forward. We're listening. Your species will face 3 tests, Kether announced. The first will test your physical courage. The second will test your wisdom and judgment. The third will test your moral strength. You have one of your months to prepare. After that, the trials begin. And if we refuse? Admiral Rodriguez asked. Kether's helmet turned toward the camera. Then the cleansing begins immediately. Choose wisely, Admiral. The fate of every human world hangs in the balance. Lisa stared at the alien warrior, realizing that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy, and their survival now depended on proving themselves to a judge who had been sleeping since before their civilization began. The final judgment. 1 month later, the trials began. The first test took place on Kepler base, where Kether had demanded to see humanity's greatest warriors in combat. Admiral Rodriguez had assembled the coalition's best fighters, but they were no match for the ancient Vorak. Kether defeated them all, but he seemed pleased rather than disappointed. "You fight with honor," he told the bruised and exhausted soldiers. "You do not surrender, even when defeat is certain. This shows the strength of your spirits." The second test was held aboard Research Station Omega-7. Kether presented the coalition's leaders with complex scenarios, moral dilemmas that had no easy answers. How would they handle conflicts between different species? What would they do if resources became scarce? How could they balance justice with mercy? For 3 days, the debates raged. Admiral Rodriguez, Dr. Lisa Grant, and dozens of other experts argued and discussed each problem. Kether listened in silence, his ancient helmet revealing nothing of his thoughts. But it was the third test that surprised everyone. "The final trial," Kether announced, "will not be for your leaders or your warriors. It will be for one person alone." His helmet turned toward Lisa. "Dr. Lisa Grant, you challenged me when we first met. You showed no fear, even though you knew I could destroy you. Now I offer you a choice." Lisa stepped forward, her heart pounding. "What kind of choice?" Kether gestured, and a holographic display appeared showing 2 buttons, one red, one blue. "The red button will awaken all 10,000 Vorak warriors," he explained. "We will judge every species in the galaxy, not just humanity. Those we find worthy will be allowed to continue. Those we find lacking will be eliminated. The galaxy will be ruled by strength and honor." Lisa stared at the red button. "And the blue button?" "The blue button will return me to sleep forever. All of my people will remain in their tombs until the end of time. But you must understand, if you choose this path, you are taking responsibility for the galaxy's future. If your species fails, if they become weak and corrupt, if they harm others through ignorance or greed, that failure will be on your shoulders alone." The laboratory fell silent. Everyone understood what Kether was offering. The red button would put the galaxy under the protection of beings who were strong but merciless. The blue button would leave the future in the hands of species who were flawed but capable of growth. "There's something I don't understand," Lisa said slowly. "Why are you giving me this choice? Why not make the decision yourself?" Kether's helmet tilted slightly. "Because in all my years of sleep, dreaming and watching your species grow, I have seen something that surprises me. You are weak in body compared to my people. Your technology is primitive. Your civilizations are young and often foolish." He paused, and Lisa could feel the weight of his ancient gaze. "But you have something that we lost long ago," he continued. "Hope. You believe that tomorrow can be better than today. You strive to improve, not just yourselves, but others around you. When you found me, Dr. Grant, you could have tried to use me as a weapon. Instead, you sought to understand. When I challenged your species, you stood up to me not out of hatred, but out of love for your people." Lisa felt tears forming in her eyes. "So what's your answer? Are we worthy?" "That," Kether said quietly, "is for you to decide." Lisa looked around the room at her colleagues, at the security personnel, at Jake and Amy who had been with her from the beginning. Then she looked at the 2 buttons floating in the holographic display. She thought about humanity's mistakes, the wars, the prejudice, the greed. But she also thought about their achievements, the art, the science, the simple acts of kindness that happened every day across the galaxy. Finally, she reached out and pressed the blue button. The holographic display vanished. Kether stood motionless for a long moment, then slowly began walking toward the station's docking bay. "Where are you going?" Lisa called after him. "Back to my tomb on Zerion Prime," Kether replied without turning around. "I have seen enough. Your species may not be the strongest, Dr. Grant, but they have something more valuable than strength. They have the courage to trust in the future. As the ancient warrior reached the doorway, he paused and looked back. I will sleep for another 50,000 years, he said. Perhaps longer. When I wake again, I hope to find that your faith in your species was justified. Lisa followed him to the docking bay and watched as he boarded a small transport ship. The vessel's engines came to life, and she realized that Kether must have been learning to pilot human technology during his time on the station. Will we ever see you again? She asked through the ship's communication system. Perhaps, came the reply. If your species ever truly needs guidance, call my name in the crystal caves of Zerion Prime. But I suspect you will do well enough on your own. The transport ship launched and disappeared into the stars, carrying the last active Vorak back to his eternal sleep. 3 months later, Dr. Lisa Grant published a paper about the discovery that changed human civilization forever. But she never mentioned the choice Kether had given her, or the terrible responsibility that now rested on humanity's shoulders. Some secrets, she realized, were too important to share. And somewhere in the crystal caves of Zerion Prime, Warlord Kether of the Crimson Spear Legion closed his eyes and began to dream once more, dreams filled with images of a species that had proven themselves worthy not through strength, but through the simple courage to believe in tomorrow. The end.